what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Chris Aiken Presents. I, of course, am Chris Aiken, and today on the show, we are going to do something a little bit different. No rock stars today. Today, what we are going to do is talk about one of my other passions, and those of you that have watched the show forever, or Classic Metal Show or whatever, know that I am heavily involved in the gaming world. I own the 5th largest arcade in the country, and I love talking about it, and I love talking gaming. And I love supporting gaming, and that's where we're going to go today. We're going to talk about a brand new docuseries that is being produced, I believe, as we speak, but we'll get into all of that here shortly. It's called Game Changers. It really features the growth of gaming and the kind of the techie part of it, as well as the front end of it. You know, I know for a fact you guys have all played the games, but you probably don't realize just how much technology and artwork and everything that goes into making the simplest of games all the way to the most complex of games. But we're going to talk about it with some guys that know. They are the first we're going to talk with Phil Moore, who you probably remember from Nickelodeon's Nick Arcade, and the producer of the movie as well, the docuseries that is coming, Mr. Scott Barber. So I will bring them in. Scott, Phil, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Chris, man. Oh, first of all, I want to talk to you. I want to get into this whole world of yours. For a second there, I was like, can I download this opening jam on my Spotify? It was like, Scott never like, that has got to be the coolest intro music I've ever been brought up to, man.
That is my co-host Eric Ferentinos, who plays guitar with Stephen Piercy from Rat. He recorded that, so that's why it's good, because it's a pro.
Heck yeah, man.
Excellent. Well, welcome, guys. I'm certainly glad to have you guys here, and I'm certainly excited to talk some gaming, man. I guess before we dig into the gaming itself, why don't we start? Maybe each of you give a little bit of background on yourselves and what led you to where we are today talking about Game Changers.
All right, I'll go first because I think it's a perfect segue into Scott. Hi. I feel like I'm in an AA meeting. Hi, I'm Phil, and you go, hi, Phil.
Are you a gameaholic?
I am a gameaholic. I'm Phil Moore. And as you said, back in the 90s, I hosted this really revolutionary game show called Nick Arcade. It was an actual privilege and honor to be doing it. I mean, video gaming was in its infancy. And then all of a sudden, somebody back then took this infant and like taught it how to walk and run in a way that it never done before. And that we really are now just really catching up to with things like Oculus. We were doing it back with sticks and duct tape. We freaking MacGyvered, virtual reality. But aside from that, having hosted that show and a few other things, the other thing I do still sort of in gaming, for a while, I was actually a producer over at G4. Original G4 back in the day. I did X-Play and a little bit of stuff on Attack of the Show back in the day. So that was really cool to like get back to my roots, And now, even though it's not video games, I make a really nice living as a game show producer for plenty of game shows you've seen on television and in streaming. So whether it's video gaming or just, people just answering, buzzing in to try to win I'm gaming is in me. So, and I had the opportunity to work with Scott. He had done this this docuseries called The Orange Years. Tremendous success with that. At the time, I was just one of a group of the cavalcade of Nickelodeon people that he talked with. But a few years after the success of I get a phone call from him, and this is the segue. Enter Scott Barber.
Yeah, I directed this documentary called The Orange Years. It's not the one where everything goes bad and off the rails. I get like messages and calls every day, or not every day, but at least a couple times a month. Saw your docuseries, man. That's crazy stuff. But this is before that,
sure,
when Geraldine Laybourne was in charge, and it was like the fun, good years. And so I got to interview Phil on that. I loved Nick Arcade as a kid, as everyone did. It was it was so awesome. And so I got to interview him. And then after that, when I started thinking of, which, by the way, I directed a documentary called This Is Guar in between these two that I bet some of your fans would like. But
absolutely,
when I was kind of thinking of what could be a cool series, I thought about retro video games, kind of like the movies that made us, but with games, a different game every episode. So I was like, the only way I'd really want to do it, wouldn't it be awesome if I could make a retro video game docuseries with Phil Moore? So I messaged him because, again, he was interviewed on the Orange Years and he was into it. So here we are.
Right on.
Here we are.
Guys, let's talk about Game Changers itself, because I want to make sure that we cover it at the beginning as well as at the end. And I want to make sure that people see somewhere in this long scroll here is the link to actually contribute, which people can do. And it's also in the description on whatever platform you're watching this on.
Okay.
But Scott, let's start with you, man. Tell us a little bit about what the documentary or the docuseries is going to be, as well as how and why people should get involved to, to kickstart it and help support it.
Yeah, it's a docuseries where every episode we focus on a different game that changed the game. It has to be revolutionary in some way. So it's really a lot of retro classic games, going all the way from the early 80s to the late 90s. So that's kind of what we're focusing on the first season. So rather than having it be kind of about the timeline of games, we're giving each game a full episode.
Okay.
So, we're doing stuff like Tomb Raider, Mortal Kombat, Dragon's Lair, Myst, Punch Out, just any game that kind of was like the first to bring about a new technology or new hardware or something like that.
Okay. And Phil, how do you fit into this? Do you fit into it just because you're known for gaming, or do you have a passion past the controller and into the back end of it to where you or learned about the technology and stuff?
Well, let me tell you a couple of things to answer your question. I cannot fake the funk. We live in a world today where everybody watching you is savvy. They're smart. Despite what the internet would say. No, they are smart. And but here's the thing. So I'm not a guy, on Twitch doing it. But here's the thing. This is a perfect fit for me because we're talking about old games. Old guy. I'm a retro gamer, man. People are surprised when they find out, despite me having a PS5, I spend most of my time playing my Nintendo 64. You know what I mean? Or the time when for a while there, remember you could download old games on the Wii, and there was all those games from that's the kind of gamer that I am. So I'm not even gonna try to fake it oh no, I can get up there and talk with the best of them out there. But if you want to talk about retro games, because the thing about me and the time Nickelodeon was, it was just getting started. We had the opportunity to actually put prototypes on the show. We got delivered to our office games that were still in development, some that eventually saw the light of day, some that never saw the light of day, and some you saw on the show first. So it became a fascination. Not only was I a game player, because back in that time, I just got out of college, played, I was the guy going to Chuck E. Cheese. I was the guy going to Showbiz. I was the guy going to Discovery Zone. Can we pour it out for the cast at Discovery Zone? I was doing all of that, playing games. We had them in the dorms. We had in the little area that was like the activity center. I was playing games, so segueing right into Nick Arcade, it was still that time. It was still that technology. So when Scott talked to me about it, my first apprehension was, look, I can't get up and try to hang with these cats that are doing it 24/7. I'm not that guy. And he stopped and went, retro games. I'm like, oh, well, I got, beside my picture on the driver's license, it says retro. And that right there, that is my pedigree. And the other thing is, I do love those games. And the thing about Game Changers that's really cool is, as Scott said, we're not going to try to talk about every game. We don't want anybody atting us, hitting us and going, this is a really big game, or don't you know this was more popular? This isn't really about what was necessarily the most popular game of a particular era. It is that the title is literally that. It's about games that somehow changed it. I remember the day. Here's an analogy for you. I remember the day going to see movies. You go see these animated things, whether it was, no matter who was putting it out there. And then a little movie called Toy Story came out.
Right.
And that was the first long form introduction of CG animation and a motion picture that we saw. That was a game changer. We can debate all day whether it's the best movie or not, but there are video games that did the same thing. Something happened. And because of that, everything that came after it was altered. It had to live up to it. It borrowed off of it. It built on top of it. So, I'm into that. That is what I'm about. And the fact this is the direction that Scott wants to take it makes it a project that I am definitely passionate about and 100% into.
Right on. Well, and the thing that I think is probably going to make this very successful is how, especially early on in gaming, and I'll tell you, I'm 55 years old, so I was Atari guy, Atari and television.
Same here, right there.
Had every one of them. I have an Odyssey 2 in the
man.
Yep, ColecoVision, all of that, and I loved all of that stuff. But I don't think the kids today, for as much as they love to play their Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or whatever, I don't think they understand how passionate we were for it. In our day, I can remember everybody bringing their little TVs to my garage and having tournaments of, Pitfall and, Tecmo Bowl and, and I can remember walking miles with $3 in our pocket because we could stretch $3 all day long playing Asteroids or something. They don't understand that, but I do think that the audience probably that would be the most likely to watch Game Changers are going to be those people that are in between the 50 and 60 year range that grew up in the 80s and maybe into the early 90s. Scott, is that kind of where you're seeing the audience, as probably the guy that has to worry about the cume?
Yeah, in I think there's a lot of people kind of where I am, where I had the Atari. I was a little kid, but my brother had it. So I remember that. I remember going to arcades. I went to Showbiz Pizza all the time and loved it. But then kind of where we end is kind of Tomb Raider, that era.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked all of those games. And I think there's a lot of people that these are the games maybe when you were a little kid, and these are the games when you were kind of becoming an adult. And so then people that like Tomb Raider, that they were a little kid when it came out, I think will like it. So I think it definitely is similar to that. I think maybe a little bit, it could go a little bit younger too, but I definitely think, like mid 50s and stuff like that. I think we've got 2 arcade games in there. We got Centipede and Dragon's Lair.
Okay.
And that's really something Phil says in our Kickstarter is there's something for everyone. We wanted to make sure we had a PC game, at least one arcade game, at least one game that was on, a couple of different consoles. We didn't want them to all be Nintendo. So we made sure there was some Sega, some Nintendo, and, PC, all that stuff. So.
Right on.
And you know what also?
Go ahead, Phil.
I'm sorry, but the other thing, just if I could just piggyback on that, is, a lot of games now, a lot of players that are younger than the three of us are learning about these retro games. Because I've bought packs, I've bought discs, and it's got the newer version, and then it's got like the four that preceded it,
Mm-hmm.
and so and they're not looking at it going, oh wow, look at the graphics. They're looking at it and go, oh wow, like this is where this came from. And the other thing too, it's a different way of playing. Okay, I'm gonna get thrown in the bus for this, but I'm gonna say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I love the fact that I used to be able to go and spend $25 on a game and play it like all through college.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to spending $65 on a game and be done with it in 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different level of like gameplay. It's a different level of commitment. what was different? I mean, the games now look better. They have the cut scenes in it and stuff, but there was a different way of playing. And it's something about if you're a real gamer and you get those packages where it's got like, the Grand Theft Auto all the way up to Grand Theft Auto 6, and you're up there playing it like that, and you've seen where it came from. There's a lot of people that have gotten a glimpse of that. They gotten a taste of it, and they're into it, and they're a lot younger than us.
And to piggyback off that, when I was a kid, I was into Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, all that stuff. And I remember older people would go, "How do you know about that? You weren't even born yet." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I wasn't born yet, but it's awesome." And I'm into rock and roll. So of course I'm going to know about bands that are older. Sure. I'm not just going to know about, so I knew all about the punk bands and how we got to here, and the metal bands and hard rock bands. And so I think that's kind of the way some kids are with video games. A lot of kids are now with video games. Like, I have a little one, and all of their friends, they'll try to tell me like, "Oh, you know how Super Mario Brothers 2 was originally this game, but it was too hard, so they switched it out with Doki Doki Panic." Like, they love learning about it because they still like Mario. So the same way we kind of enjoyed going back in time with music and stuff like that, they like to learn the origin. So I think that's definitely a secondary audience, but I think there will be some younger people that would be into this.
Well, the young kid, and I can tell you as somebody that owns a business doing this, when we get kids, it's the most perfect business model in the world, because it plays, we always joke that it plays from 5 to 95, because everybody loves gaming. And I can tell you, I'm always stunned when we're in there and we'll host a birthday party or something, and it'll be like for 15-year-old kids. And they can't drag their kids out of there. And that they're going home to a PS5 or an Xbox One or whatever they play. They're playing some really high-tech games, but they come into our place and they're fascinated with standing up and playing Lunar Lander or Tron, or because it's so different from what they're used to. It literally is opening up a new door that they didn't see.
Yeah, and look, even right now, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and we regularly take the Switch and play Mario Kart, original recipe Mario Kart, because even though it's a new system and a new platform, it's got this game on it, and you could be 10 years old and play original Pac-Man right now, and they do.
Yep,
sure. Now, guys, let's dig into the show a little bit, because as you mentioned, you're going to feature games that, obviously by the name, are game changers. What identifies a game as a changer? Is it the technology? Is it the gameplay? Is it single player versus 2-player game? One-person shooter versus against somebody else? What are the rules that you guys kind of established to say, well, this was a game changer and this was not?
Do you want to go, Phil?
Every and everything that you just said. I mean, look, there are some games that we've got in here. Like one of my favorite games that's a favorite of mine of all time is Star Fox. And I remember the first time I played Star Fox, I never experienced even though it may not have advertised itself as a 3D game, it is the most Oculus Rift I've ever played in my entire life. The way you could, do a barrel roll and then the ship goes through, and they're all like, "What? It's coming at me? What is this?" Something like that. We talked about Centipede, and the fact that it was developed by Scott mentioned the other day, it was developed by a woman, and the rollerball going from a joystick and pressing a button to doing something like this. It's a lot of things. Everything you said, whether it's the technology, whether it's how it introduced something new regarding graphics, whether it introduced a new immersive environment, the way the game played. You went from doing a scrolling across to running through an immersive world like a Lara Croft. It's any and everything that you just said. And Scott, I'll let Scott go off of this, go on next. And the other part about this, which I think is probably the most important part, is the people that made the games. That That's fascinating. The people that
Absolutely.
made the game, they didn't just make the game like, here's my job. It was hard. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of blood, there was a lot of sweat, there was a lot of tears. And the people who, it was a labor of love and a passion. And I don't want to say that we may have taken it for granted, because now we put in these slick things and put on our headphones and connect to the internet and we go nuts. But think about what it took to get from there to here. I
Well,
sound like the
well,
Enterprise
no,
song.
but well,
Totally.
the difference too, just building on that point, the difference back then was that there was no blueprint.
Yeah.
Now, sure, you can go and make the greatest Grand Theft Auto game in the world that encounters a whole world of travel and killing and all the stuff that you have, but there's a blueprint to do it. All the way back to when there was a Space Invaders, and they built that off of what, Pong. I mean, it
Yeah,
was it went from going across the screen to up and down and things across, and so different. And somebody had to have that thought that, well, I can make these lights do these things. How do I do it? And this is before you had even really basic computer courses. I mean, these guys were learning in their garage.
yeah. They were they
Yeah.
were they were they were making it as it went along. And I mean, not that this is going to be a part of the show, but having had the good fortune of hosting Nick Arcade, meeting the people that invented it. I mean, like, they invented a technology. They invented a technology and went, wow, we need to do something with this. Every single video game has a story like that. Like, wow,
Hmm.
we've got minimal training or no training, but they're just really crafty, clever, genius folks, and went, wow, look what we made this thing do on this screen here. We've got to do something with that.
Right on.
Almost like MacGyver, they had to, there wasn't a way to do it. So I love the like hacks that they did where
Mm-hmm.
we'll do this to make it look like this. Like Tomb Raider's full of that, where they wanted, I mean, a full cinematic experience, and the way that Lara Croft moves is really revolutionary for the time. And to be able to move through all those different quadrants, they kind of found really cool ways to do that. So a lot of these games are game changers in multiple ways. Tomb Raider's a big one. Female protagonist, the third person 3D. It was one of the
Sure.
first cinematic ones, so yeah, there's a lot
Having the
of good
camera
stuff there.
go around, having to go around the shooter that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you went left and right, up and down, and now all of a sudden you are behind, and then you're swinging. You see her face, and you, mind blown,
Mm-hmm.
mind blown.
Absolutely. One of the games that I know you guys are going to be featuring, and it's one that I know a lot about, is Dragon's Lair. And certainly was innovative with the Laserdisc technology. And I mean, it's almost like that idea was ahead of the tech, because if anybody that's played it knows it is a very clunky play. You click it, and half the time you can hear the disc turning, before you get to the, yes, you can go that way, or, oh, you're a skeleton.
Right.
Are there other examples like that where the idea was put out there maybe before the technology was ready for it?
Well, I mean, that's part of what that's the beauty of this thing. This is the reason for the Kickstarter. There's some free stuff going on right now, but we can only go but so far
Sure.
without having the wherewithal to do the job. These are the things we want to find out, Chris. Like, it's like we're putting on our Indiana Jones hats, and we're taking our whips, and we're swinging across, wondering what we're going to find. These are the things we want to find out. That's an excellent question. One that we are we deep down inside, we're guaranteed to uncover. We're waiting to get answers to the questions we don't know to ask. Because when you sit down and you talk to somebody who was passionate about something, who loves something that they did, you don't have to they are the easiest interviewer, because you don't really interview them. You just stop and go, so tell me about, dude, what how was this working on this, and just let them go, and you will get nuggets of joy you wouldn't have thought. Let me ask about that question. So the thing you just asked, man, this is what we're hoping to get. This is what we know we're going to get, and so much more.
Right on. Now, with the obviously there's the Kickstarter to help fund
Yeah.
the investigation and whatnot. What is the end game here? Is it to get on Paramount Plus or Peacock, or is it going to be a Amazon thing that you release? You know, that people can pay $2 to an episode to watch. I mean, what are you shooting for as far as how it's going to be distributed and how people will see it?
That's a good question. And that's one reason why we wanted to do it this way, rather than trying to sell an idea, which I've had a lot of experience with over the past couple of years. Sell an idea and then they give you money to make it as a Netflix original or as a Peacock original or whatever. There's a lot, it's complicated and people tell you what to do and all this stuff. So we kind of wanted to take a DIY approach where we kickstart it, we make it ourselves and then sell it to somebody. So yeah, that is the end goal, I think, is for us to reestablish the formula, sell it, and then if we keep making it that way, great. But hopefully somebody will go, cool, for season 2, we're going to take you on and we'll help give you that backup. But we've already established how the show is. We've already established the vibe and the feel of it. No one's telling us like, show somebody getting murdered, you know, like that's what we talk about that all the time. Like that's what everybody wants is if you're pitching an idea, the streamers go, does anybody die in it? And when you say no, they're like, never mind. They only want true crime. So doing something like this, I think is so much, it's just fun. It's cool. It's fun. And it lifts people up and gives the spotlight to people that maybe didn't have it. All these people that you don't know their names, but you know the game.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well,
yep. I mean, look, guys, it's one of those things where when you talk to these people, even we want to do something that's not all about murder, but can you imagine talking to the person that created the first Grand Theft Auto and what made them think about taking a crime in 16-bit and making it into a game? That
that's wild.
Well,
that's wild. That's wild.
And God knows you probably will find out that they took it from an 8-bit game. They probably were like, well, I wanted to go like, from Zelda or something. They'll have some. Yeah. Well, there was a sword fight in Zelda, and it gave me the idea or something. That's how it'll probably play out. Is that it really does stem, or it might even be older. Might be, I used to play Pitfall on my Atari and I liked when the alligators got the guys. So I was like, let's make something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. You don't know how it comes up. You're right. That is interesting.
I would really love to know what they were smoking when they went from like the old technology to Mortal Kombat with the blood coming out. That right there.
Yeah.
That's how you do happy murder.
Yeah. When it's not a real person, when it's somebody writing a story and there's actually creativity, it's so much better. Mortal Kombat, like you're talking about with this stuff, Grand Theft Auto, in addition to Mortal Kombat being a game changer by the fact that it was real people, there was also the whole video game rating thing that happened. It was kind of like the video game version of the PMRC with Dee Snider and Frank Zappa. It's what started that whole thing where we have a rating. The first time that was really discussed.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many questions that you guys can go out there and investigate. I mean, and I say this to people all the time because I get a lot of questions owning a place, and people are like, who goes to a place like that? I'm like, everybody, because everybody has been touched by game. Grandparents and great grandparents played pachinko machines in the 40s, for God's sakes. That's the earliest of the earliest.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has an interest in gaming, and it's, what is it, the second or third largest industry in the world now. So it's, it's obviously a huge, huge thing that everybody's interested in. Phil, let me throw this one to you as somebody that's been, in the gaming world, but also in the TV verse. How difficult is it for you to immerse yourself as a gamer, but still play the TV game a little bit to, because and I know when you play in video games, you lose your mind. You lose your mind and you're playing that way. But you obviously can't do that in this. You got to kind of keep and this came out in 1986, and you have to keep the decorum. Well, is that difficult or no?
Dude, the decorum. In the words of Bugs Bunny, he don't know me very well, do he? Look, I'm the guy that you have to reel in. Scott's gonna be like, he's gonna have a little hook on my back, and he's like, "Bring it back, Phil," because when I start talking, it's not going to be difficult at all. Number one, I am a producer, but you know how they say in this industry, it's a saying that goes, "Write what you know." Well, let's take that a step further. Produce what you love. You know, if you produce what you love, if you write what you know, if you do what you're passionate about, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
It's never going to be a challenge to ask somebody to get that interesting thing out of them. As soon as they say, "This is the thing that inspired this," my brain is going to be going, "Tell me more," and it's going to be just even just a flow. But I got to tell you, listen, but in all the talkativeness of me, it's not about me. I said something quite by accident the other day, and I went, "Darn it, this is what it's all about." Scott and I were talking. I said, "This is about, when you watch a video game, and like when you beat it, there's credits that roll at the end.
Right.
This isn't about me. This is about giving credit to the credits."
Right.
And so I'm just you know what? I consider myself as being in front of the camera, a traffic cop. A traffic cop isn't driving the car. They're just keeping the flow. Just keeping the flow and making sure nobody hits each other. It's about keeping the flow. These people, the spotlight's going to be on them. And my job is to give them the platform. This show's whole platform is to give them the platform, elevate them, and put their stories out there about these things that we love so much. Video games.
Real quick from the chat, Dirk Omega 215 said, "Let's call this what it is. Nick Arcade and Phil Moore are the genesis of modern gaming in the mainstream." There you go. That's it. That's why he's the perfect guy for this.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And it's weird because first of all, thank you so much for that comment. It's true. And it's weird for me to think about it like that because, everybody sort of jokes about this. But for me at the time, man, right out of college, I was just trying to pay off my student loans, not realizing what I was stepping into, not realizing that it wasn't just a couple of producers that were producing a game show. That show was almost like Game Changers. Like I said, they really did. James Bethea and Karim Metcalf were a couple of like college buddies who invented the technology on what we got to do something with this, not knowing if they could get away with it, not knowing if they'd find a place for it. And now we pop on our things on our head, and we go into these virtual rooms and we do it like it's nothing. But in 1993, kids were doing it like MacGyver with duct tape and a paper clip.
Right. No, you're right. And not to dwell back on Nick Arcade too much, but I will say as somebody that had little babies basically at that age, it was nice to have something that I could turn on for them and I could watch as well because I was still a gamer. Just because I had kids didn't mean I didn't play. And it was like, well, the kids like watching the lights blink and flash, and I'm like, guess I better go to the store and buy this one, Nice. Well, guys, tell us where the link is obviously in the description on everything, and it's scrolling across the bottom as we speak right now, actually. But tell us where we should go and what people get or what their involvement includes if they donate at X amount of levels.
Yeah. Our Instagram is at Game Changers Series. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our Kickstarter, if you just Google Game Changers Kickstarter, if you can't find the link, that's the easiest way to find it. That's whenever I'm on a different computer and I want to check how the Kickstarter is going, just Game Changers Kickstarter, you'll find it. And there's a lot of cool perks all the way down from, $10, $25. You get a digital copy. We're going to have a Blu-ray, which is going to be really cool, of the whole first season. So you can have that physical media. I think that's another thing. People that are into those retro arcades are also into physical media. I am. Yeah. And there's like some signed stuff. And then for $2,500, you can be an associate producer. So you actually get to say that you are a producer. You get an IMDb, you get all of that stuff, and you get to kind of have some input on how we do things. And we are going to have a theatrical screening where we screen the first 3 episodes.
Okay.
Because we were like, we want to do theatrical, but how do you do that for a show? So we'll do the first 3 episodes, since all 6 would be way too much. And, you get tickets to that. So I think that's a really cool one. And then there is a higher one for executive producer where you get like a ton of stuff. But I think that's a really cool one, because you get to be part of it, and you get just something that you can buy DVDs and Blu-rays and shirts and posters. But to get to say, like, I was a producer on a movie, that's not something you get that opportunity to all the time.
It is cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what's the timeline? When are we expecting it, or are we waiting to finish the Kickstarter and then go from there, or what are we doing?
That's really it. I mean, look, we want to have some really cool production value behind it. We're not trying to make it super glossy and slick, but there's obviously I think the biggest thing is going to be the research and the travel. We're going to have to go to where these people are. It would be really great as we start to talk to them and line up interviews, if you can go to the places. I mean, I don't know for everyone, but I know that some people will go, this is what I was working when I sat down and I came up with the idea for the Pow,
Right.
And we want to be able to go there. And when I say we, I don't mean Pat and I. This thing is obviously going to be shot by somebody. So that means we're going to have to take a camera person. We're going to have to take a sound person, those kind of things are what this Kickstarter is going to help fund and make sure that this is done with the quality that gamers should deserve, what they deserve.
Right.
We're passionate about making this, obviously, you can tell, but if this Kickstarter is successful, we just get to start that much sooner, and we get to do that much better of a job for everybody. We're not going to have to cut corners and say, we couldn't do this game because we couldn't get there, or the legal thing held us up. So that's why we really want this Kickstarter to be successful, because the gaming community is so awesome. If we kept it between us, you got Phil Moore, who's like the guy. And then you've got, our team, we're all really passionate about it. And then the people that funded it are the gamers. And there's no big company, no daddy Warbucks that we have to answer to. It's us. We did this. So that's what we're really hoping that we can do.
Right on.
How much have we been watching? And I'm not going to name anything, but beloved IP that we all grew up and have worshipped, and then watched a big corporation take it and make it into something that makes you go, the hell is that? But this being done by gamers, this being done by a guy who knows how to do it, me being involved in old school retro gamer at heart, at my core, doing it for gamers, talking to gamers, man. And when do we get started? When we get what we need to get going. And the closer we get, the better it'll be. The sooner we get there, the sooner we get started.
That's right. Well, so everybody should, if you're watching this, go over. The link has been scrolling. It's also in the description. It's long. That's why I'm not just giving it out, but it's at Kickstarter.com. You can look up Game Changers. And guys, this has been a lot of fun. One more time, the Game Changers docuseries. It's being crowdfunded, so be part of the crowd and fund it. God damn it, let's get this thing done. Let's
by the way, Chris, I listen. I gotta tell you, I'm in the middle of shooting a game show right now. But I'm telling you, somewhere in between me finishing this and Game Changers, I gotta come check out your arcade. That's
not only come and check it out, you guys should come and shoot at it. We've got all these games
for real.
There we go.
We've got, if they had a stand up, I mean, we've got 420 machines that are active. So, and then we've got another 1,000 in a warehouse. We've got the games. So by all means, if you guys need a place, we're more than happy.
You hear that, Scott? That's
real quick.
Thinking like a producer, man.
Yeah, exactly. Here, and I don't have a big, huge arcade, but speaking of, just to prove I'm not a poser, I do have a Zaxxon arcade right beside me in my office. So whenever I get stressed out, I can come over and play some Zaxxon.
Very cool.
I'm out of town right now shooting a show. If I would show you my stuff, there's like I said, the biggest thing I play most is the old 64. It's insane.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, it's going to be, I can't wait for this thing to get funded.
Thanks.
So help fund it, everybody, and look for it soon. And guys, when it's funded and when it's done, let's get you guys back on and we'll talk about it when it's, premiering on Paramount Plus or Netflix or whoever is smart enough to buy it. How's that?
Brother, You got it. It will be our pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. And everybody, thanks for watching and appreciate it. And we will see you next time on Chris Aiken Presents.